Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 6th Edition and Sobriety. Alright, so basically, I'm so excited. I really believe that the design, the official design for Dungeons & Dragons 6th Edition has started. Wizards of the Coast has not announced it. I believe we've already learned from Paizo Pathfinder 2e. They were working on that game for 2 years before they announced it, and I think that Wizards of the Coast is going to do exactly the same. I think that they're going to be working on 6th edition long before they announce it. I think that design work has already started. I also believe that Kate Welch, who is on the Dungeons & Dragons design team right now, will be the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. So I'm making these videos now to declare publicly what I would like to see in Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. This is my playtest, right? This is me saying way before Dungeons & Dragons, as the Dungeons & Dragons design team, either before they've started or during their start. This is what I would like to see in Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. So one of the things that I would really like to see within Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, is specifically, I would really like to see Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition feature sobriety, and I would like to see it specifically be its own class. So just like there's a fighter, a ranger, or just like there's a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, and a cleric, I would like there to be a sobriquet, a class whose ability and powers is sobriety. Okay? Now, I know right out of the gate you're saying, what? Right? And I'm telling you right now, I understand this is an unusual idea, right? Okay? Just so you're aware, if my ideas seem strange, it's because, if I have some mundane thought, I don't bring it to you. What's the point of putting that up, that kind of content? I bring you my strangest, most unique, and in my opinion, most special ideas. But I really think this is important, and I'll also explain why I think this should be in this. So one, I'm going to explain what a sobriquet is. I'm also going to say why I think Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition should really, really focus on delivering a strong message about sobriety within it, okay? All right. So first of all, I'm going to talk about a personal reason for me, right? So when I was very young, right, probably in, I think it started about kindergarten until I was about in second grade, my parents would tell me, don't use intoxicants. And I would say, Mom and Dad, what's an intoxicant? And they would say, well, an intoxicant is a substance that people use to make them to artificially adjust your mood, okay? And I said, what do you mean? And they would say, well, to make yourself feel happier than you really would feel in the moment, or sadder than you really would feel in the moment. And my parents were really super intelligent and super loving and super caring. I'm incredibly blessed with that. My parents just recently celebrated their 50th anniversary. There's a lot of wisdom in the two of them, and I'm fortunate to have the smallest shred of their wisdom, and that has blessed me incredibly. So they told me very early on, don't use substances that intoxicate you of any kind, right? And so then I said, well, why shouldn't I use these? If I can adjust my mood, if I can be happier than I am right now by using some kind of substance, why wouldn't I do that? Right? And they said, well, the reality is the biggest reason is intoxicants steal your freedom. You no longer have the choice to make your decisions uninhibited, or actually to make your decisions freely, right? They're either inhibited or they are uninhibited. Your decisions are adjusted by something other than your own will, right? I thought, that's interesting. So my parents told me this for a while, right? For a few years. And to tell the truth, I have to say this, it was just words, right? It really didn't mean much to me, right? But the reality is they lived it, right? And this is the key, right? My parents never used intoxicants when I was young. And so I saw this firsthand. Now, my father was part of the Air Force. And so we moved around. I lived in a lot of places. I lived in Key West, Florida. I lived in Racine, Wisconsin. I lived in Savannah, Georgia, right? Lived in a lot of places, and so we went to a lot of places when I was young. And I also lived in Aston, Pennsylvania, okay? So I lived in quite a few different places, and there's a few more places that aren't even on the list there, okay? But I lived all over the United States, right? And my parents told me this, and I remember distinctly, as I got older, I looked at my neighbors, and I saw, and the biggest thing that showed was parties. I remember asking my parents, like, what's happening next door? This happened a few weeks in a row. It happened on one side of our house, and it happened on the other side of our house. They have these parties, which at first I was like, wow, I really wish we had parties, which we didn't. Not generally. We would have nice, very light parties, right? But on both sides of our houses, I would see this in different states. And the party would start, everybody would be real happy, and that would be at about, and these parties would be on Fridays and Saturdays. And everybody would be happy, and like at 7 or 8 o'clock, I was probably, drawing, something I used to like to draw when I was young. And then later at night, especially on Friday and Saturday night, I would stay up and I would read The Lord of the Rings. And so the parties would start out, everybody was having a good time, the music was playing, and that was at 7 or 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock. But at 10, 11, midnight, right, there's a lot of cursing. And there was broken bottle sounds. And there were car horns going off, and people very angry with one another. And I was like, and I asked my parents, and they said, well, what you're seeing is intoxicants. People come to the party, they have the freedom to make their own choices, and by 10, 11, and 12, that freedom has been taken away from them, and their choices are being made by the intoxicant that they've used. And I thought, whoa, here are the words that they said being shown to me quite literally, right? So I was like, that is quite interesting. So even right there, I saw, okay, intoxicants mean parties ruined, vehicles lost, I remember seeing somebody smashing somebody's headlights with a bat, right? Like it was like vehicles damaged, and also I saw friendships ruined, and I saw family relationships ruined, all by intoxicants. It was very, very clear. Like my parents had said one thing, and you could see it literally next door, right? So then I went to junior high, right, and I saw people who used intoxicants. They got lower grades, there was increased drama in their life, and there was increased trouble in their lives. Then I got to high school, right? And I saw that, again, people who used intoxicants got lower grades. They had a higher chance of being in fights. They had life events that would occur in their life 5 to 10 or 15 years before you would generally have that life event. Like, for instance, a life event where you would need to have a whole lot of resources, right? Maybe you would need to have an entire another person helping you with this new task. And that life event would happen right there in high school because of intoxicants. It raised the probability of that, right? And it seemed very clear to me, right? Now, I will say this is all purely to me. Maybe you saw different things in the high schools you were in, right? I went to a public high school. And so life events were out of order. I saw addiction. And I also saw that people who used intoxicants in high school had a higher chance of increasing the different types of intoxicants they used, right? And so one of the things is I was very, very fortunate. My parents warned me about this very early. I saw it so they told me when I was like 5, 6, 7. I saw it directly when I was 7, 8, 9, and 10. I saw the lessons compounded in junior high and absolutely cemented in high school. So when I got to college, I'm like, I don't need to drink, Now, I will say right now, there was incredible peer pressure, but I was like, hey, I'm really fortunate. I got these nerd friends over here who don't drink a lot. We play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't need it, right? So I never started. Now, why do I want sobriety in Dungeons and Dragons 6th edition? Sobriety has become a freaking superpower for me, man. It is awesome. So one of the things is it has really helped me in my career. I'm stable. I'm reliable. And often it's helped me surpass people who struggle with other issues, right? And so, like people will just come in and you can tell they're not, they're certainly able to do their job, but like they squint, or if they had a really, especially on like after a Thursday night, people come in and they don't really get cracking until 10 or 11. You see what I'm saying? And so basically, just because they had a difficult night or they were out late, all those kind of things. And it's really been, and the other thing is my choices are mine. That freedom that my decisions, that freedom that my parents promised me, it's been there, And so it really has been an incredible superpower to me. And I struggle with many, many things in my life. I got 99 problems, but intoxicants are not one. I never started. Right? So I've never had to stop any type of intoxicant. That has nothing to do with me. That has to do with the incredible love and care of my parents, right? But I'm fortunate enough to know that sobriety is a superpower. It truly is. And I want to see that put right into Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. And so I introduce the Sobriety. Please, Wizards of the Coast design team, bring forward the Sobriety as a base class. All right, now what is the Sobriety, right? So the Sobriety gets a +1 to con, a +1 to wisdom, and a +1 to intelligence. But they do get a -1 to charisma. Hey, it's there, right? I'm not the life of the party. Come on, you get a -1 to charisma, right? Then what they get to do is they get to choose a skill advance from any. They get to choose the skill options of any non-arcane or non-divine character. And the feats, they get to choose the feat options for any non-arcane or non-divine class. They get to do that at first level, and they get to do that at every single level. And so it's an incredibly flexible build that can pull from many different. That can pull from from barbarian. It can pull from fighter. It can pull from rogue. It can pull from rogue actually does have the ability to cast spells, but it is a non-arcane class. So you cannot pull from any arcane. So you can't pull from sorcery. You can't pull from wizard. You cannot pull from cleric. You cannot pull from warlock. You do have, and also you cannot pull from bard. You got to pull that off the table too, right? Because those guys literally work in pubs, right? Come on, and those ladies as well. Excuse me. So basically, essentially the most exciting classes, right? Basically, are going to be you'll be able to build a patchwork of options from those classes. Any non-arcane, non-divine, non-bard class. Okay, and then so basically, and so that I really think that the Sobriety should be built right into Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition as a base class. Now I'm going to give you my last reason why, and this is the kicker. Okay, my parents taught me the importance of sobriety, the value of sobriety. It was words at first. It became reality when I saw it in the real world. I think that Dungeons & Dragons, because of its importance as a wonderful, wonderful, precious game vector within our lives, right? Social vector within our lives, that Dungeons & Dragons should carry forward the idea of sobriety. And the reason why is the game is for 12 and up. And many of us talk as adults about Dungeons & Dragons, but the reality is we have many, many teens who play this game, who, when they come to Dungeons & Dragons becomes an incredibly important part of their life. And I would love to see Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition carry the banner of sobriety and say, this is an option. I don't think for a second it should say, you can't do these things. What I'm saying is, let's show the value of sobriety as a life choice. And I think Dungeons & Dragons is such a special thing. It's such a wonderful piece of art, such a wonderful game vector, such a wonderful social vector, such a wonderful art vector, that Dungeons & Dragons should carry the banner of sobriety and show its value and its importance to all those 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-old players. This would be an invaluable service. Now, I have really seen that Wizards of the Coast is actually cares about social good, right? And I applaud that. I think that Dungeons & Dragons is so important and so special, it should be concerned with social good. And this should be a social good that it should carry forward. That's my opinion. What do you guys think? I'd really love to hear it below in the comments. And also, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you very much.